Thanks for remaining with us on Africa Independent Television, AIT. On Tuesday, February 27, 2024, Nigerian workers under the aegis of Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and some civil society groups stormed the streets across the country in protest against hunger.
The IMF and World Bank policies are the reason why the Nigerian economy is where it is today. I fought against the IMF and World Bank policies in 1989. This is 2024. And what are these policies? They came around and said, education is too expensive. Take it away from the masses. Don't give them free water. Don't give them free electricity. Privatize whatever belongs to the people. We have privatized electricity for how long
10
now?
years.
What did we get?
Nothing.
More darkness. Yesterday, Abuja had no electricity for over 10 hours. The national grid collapses every other hour. I think the only thing that collapses more than the national grid is Tinubu himself. Yes. And all the privatized organizations you have in the country, what is the productivity they are giving you? You make people lose their jobs. And what the IMF and the World Bank is merely doing is to create a Nigeria that becomes a dumping ground for the goods that are produced in their own countries. They tell you don't give subsidy. America has the largest subsidy for farmers. Go and ask anybody. America has a welfare state. In America, where I lived for 10 years, when I lost my job, I was getting paid unemployment benefits. When I came to Nigeria and I was in lockdown, America was giving me money for COVID. Nigerian leaders were stealing COVID money into me.
And the one-day action, which the NLC as well as civil society groups embarked on, has been generating reactions with governments speaking up and condemning the civil action. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, during the inauguration of the Red Rail Line in Lagos, took a swipe at the organized labor, saying they are not the only voice of Nigerians. He also noted that Nigeria will soon be better.
The hope is here. We have a governor in hope. And I'm standing before you, clinging to that hope, assuring you, I believe, that Nigeria will be out of economic problems. We just need to persevere. Allow me to throw a jab here. The labor union should understand that no matter how much we cling to our freedom and rights, to call for strike within 9 months of an administration is unacceptable. If you want to participate in the electoral process, wait on the 2027. If not, maintain peace. They are not the only voice of Nigerians.
Tinubu there speaking, and he has told them, if you want to participate in an electoral process, you have to wait till 2027. Otherwise, just maintain peace, because you are not the only voice in Nigeria. So our first segment will focus on Mr. President's comments over hunger protests, especially the one done by the NLC. And in the second session, we shall revisit development from the oil-rich south state of Rivers. At this moment, we say stay with us and welcome to our elite political program, Democracy Today. I am Ijoma Osamu. Thank you so much. Now let's seek opinion of one of the leaders of a civil society group who led street protest on same day that the NLC took to the street. He is a former presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC. I have Omoyele Sowore joining us via Zoom. Thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you for bringing me.
Omoyele Sowore, yes, thank you. I appreciate that you're with us here. Let's begin from the protest on that day. I saw you on the streets, and you were actually explaining why Nigerians need to react. But the president has spoken out to say that he's working hard to ensure that this country gets to a better place. So what was the essence of the protest?
Well, we didn't protest to hear from the president reel out things he's been trying to do. We protested because we're tired of suffering and the unbearable economic situation in the country, and nobody has denied that. So I just watched now the president saying if you have to protest, you should wait till 2027 because Labour is politicizing protest. That's my own way of reading it. But you should ask him and his colleagues in APC, if they waited till 2015 when we protested and we occupied Nigeria in 2012, Jonathan was barely in office 1 year when that was done. And the APC, which was formed, I think, around 2014, did they wait till 2015 before they formed a new political party to take over power? So I don't know who's advising them. I don't know who are their speechwriters, but apparently these guys are living in la-la land. The labor movement in the country, or labor unions in the country, don't have to wait for 9 months, because you cannot wait for 9 months if you are hungry before you pass. You can't wait for 9 months if you're sick, if there's no money. You can't wait for 9 months, because the Naira did not wait for 9 months before it passed on from 700 Naira to $1 to now the point 2,000 to $1. The minimum wage is the only thing that's waited in the last 9 months that Tinubu came to power. So I don't understand what he's saying. This doesn't look like this guy's living in Nigeria.
All right. If you were saying that whatever statement the president is saying is not getting to the root or giving an answer to the reason why Nigerians are protesting or why Nigerians need to hear from the president. What the president has said earlier, before now, is that they should allow him between that time when he was inaugurated into power up to the month of March so that he can fix things. But don't you think that the present administration is trying so hard to ensure that the present situation in
themselves to be taken for granted, and to stand up to these guys and ensure that they take their country back? There's nothing to say to them. They have no idea how to run the country. They have no economic agenda. When Tinubu came to office, he said it clearly that he's going to hit the ground running. He didn't say that we should wait for 9 months. There was never a place where he campaigned, anyway, that's if he campaigned at all, that people should wait for 9 months. They said they will hit the ground running, and this is something he said that you should not forget, that it's a continuation of the last regime. So this continuity, where did he get the idea from? If he didn't know that he would need 9 months. This is 9 months wasted, and there's nothing on the ground to show that the last 9 months they're trying very hard to fix things at all. Nothing that I know of. Are you talking about the level of hunger and starvation in the land, or insecurity, or the fact that this government seems to have no direction at all, apart from propaganda that I hear every day? So nobody's going to go to bed tonight with a promise that we're trying to fix things. People need food on their table, they need drugs, they need doctors, they need schools to go to, and they need a general atmosphere where they feel safe in the country. Those are the important things. Nobody wants to hear all these buzzwords about we're trying, and this very ridiculous position that the labor is not the only voice in the country. The labor unions speak for workers, and workers are a very important part of the stakeholders in the country. So you can't just wake up and say, so who else is which other voice in the country is happy? Which other voice, apart from those who are lying to themselves within their political party? None. So I just don't understand why people in this country keep sitting back and watch these guys just ridicule your existence. I don't get it.
So what do you think they should do? If they continue to remain on the streets, would that be a solution to the challenges that we are facing in the country?
Oh, yeah. I must say here that we tried to participate with Labour in the last protest. It was supposed to be 2 days. We were shocked that as soon as we left the place, we heard that they went into another meeting and they had called off the second day of the protest. You see, if you go to France, and this is a European country that is fairly better than us, workers in France protested for 6 months. Some of them are still protesting as we speak over different issues, political, labor-related, workers' welfare, general welfare, 6 months. And this was the last 2 years. So we've only done 1 day and the labor movement has already, collapsed. I don't want to say too much about them publicly because I had expected at the meeting with them, they will carry through, but we're all disappointed that they just dropped this. But let's just hope, and I mean hope, that after the 13th of March, as I heard, they said there will be a total shutdown, that they will actually take action. And I hope more civil society groups will also come out, and Nigerians will come out en masse and just make sure that this doesn't continue, because if you don't stop what is happening now economically to you, it's going to ruin you, it's going to kill you, it's going to destroy the people of this country.
Okay, so that means you are not continuing your protests. You're waiting for Labour until that 13th of March. Or
I haven't said that to you. I said, it's...
But we're expecting that. But we're expecting that after that.
I'm referring to Labour.
Okay.
They were the ones who called off the last one. We didn't call off any action. So, with there consultations going on in the country to do something independent of Labour, because more and more people are also thinking that Labour is just using them to cash cruise, as that popular parlance that they'll come around, create an impression that something will be done, they will do it halfway, and then they fizzle out. But this is not a time to focus on Labour. It's time to focus on all Nigerians, because workers are just a fraction of the people who are suffering in this country.
Okay, but you understand, I will take you back to what happened during the NSAS protest, and you were also a victim then. And if at this time you're also planning for a bigger protest, if things are not settled in Nigeria, don't you think that the protest may turn another challenge, another problem?
Well, the biggest problem for Nigerians now is survival, not trying to figure out how a protest will turn out. Each time a protest turns out violent, it's the government that makes it violent. And with huge numbers of Nigerians coming out very soon, I would imagine, nobody can come around and just feel like they can kill a few people and get away with it. That in itself will lead to even bigger problems. What they did in NSAS is till tomorrow egregious, and I hope that those who were involved in NSAS, the killings, the soldiers, those who asked them to go out and kill people in Lagos, in Abuja, from Buhari to the governor of Lagos, or whomever was involved, will be punished someday. That's my expectation. This is even NSAS is not over yet. So if you think you got away with NSAS, well, let me just assure you that it's not over yet.
But aren't you worried that if you continue in this line of saying, yes, we'll go to the street if the government is not doing anything, the state may come after you again?
What is new about me in the States? They come after me every day. They still came after me on the day I went to observe Nnamdi Kanu's trial. That's about 4 days ago. You know, they attacked me, attacked my aides, seized my phones, and then we had a physical brawl out there because they wouldn't allow journalists to cover the trial. The DSS, as I call them, the lawless DSS, took over the job of staff of the Federal High Court. And they were the ones verifying lawyers and, you know, giving them access to the courtroom. And that was why I said the Nigerian Bar Association as a union is shameless. Well, I would say it's a useless organization for them to have allowed this to happen. In our days when we were student union leaders and the NBA had the likes of Akaba Shoro, you know, of blessed memory, there's no way they would have accepted that, even under military rule. The soldiers never took over courtrooms in Nigeria. Talk less of the DSS telling lawyers in the country who can go in and who cannot go into the Federal High Court. I needed to pick up certified true copies of my case on that day. They refused me. They even turned back court officials. And that some judges didn't even bother to come to court because of DSS. How do you carry out a free and fair trial of anybody when an adversary, one of the interested parties, is the one controlling, you know, all the affairs around you? And I told them, when they came out and returned my phone, I told the senior officer, I said, why are you bothering yourself bringing Nnamdi Kanu to court? Why don't you just open up one of your conference rooms at your yellow house, put one kangaroo judge there, and sentence him to whatever you want, so that you keep pretending that this is a trial. This is a sham. This is a sham trial. You know, but that's Nigeria for you. We accept all kinds of rubbish in this country, and that's why we're where we are. That's why we're still asking ourselves, oh, don't you think the state will come after you? Is the state not after everybody? If the state is not after you, is hunger not after you? Is dollar rate not after you? Is school fees not after you? Is malaria not after you? Is road accident not after you? Are bandits not after you? Are terrorists not after you, depending on where you are? Kidnappers after you? Armed robbers after you? What else do you got to lose? You know, stand up and once and for all and save. If you can't save this generation, at least be sacrificial enough to save the generation that is coming.
You see, let me quote Mr. President from the statement he made just yesterday. He talked about, you're not the only voice, which you have also answered, but he made mention of something. If you want to participate in the electoral process, wait till 2027. Otherwise, just maintain peace. So what the president is saying there is that some of those who are on the street, in my own understanding, is that some of those who are on the street are already pushing it too far because they do not understand the policies that he has rolled out. So if they can't wait for whatever he has to yield, then let them go wait till 2027 election. Is it political?
Even his own statement is political. How did he get to power? Did he wait? If they had waited till 2015, would the APC have come to power in 2015? Didn't they start all kinds of agitation against the PDP from the day PDP came into existence? The APC, then ACN, had been against it. Did they wait? Maybe they don't understand the meaning of democracy. You know, when people want democratic power, they don't wait until election days. Well, they do. A lot of these guys are all waiting for election days. You know, that's what happens. That's why you have the PDP man now has gone back to Dubai, where he will be hibernating until the next election. But any active political democratic system, people don't wait for election day. They start agitating to change, especially when there's need for change. Even in the US, where they claim to be one of the best democracies in the world, how come they don't wait till the election day before they engage in political activities? So
I don't think these guys understand the meaning of democracy. They don't understand leadership. And, it's a joke. And I have to say that I also heard him say, I'm talking about Tinubu now, saying, oh, I have hope because Hope Uzodinma is here. He was like, this is a joke. These guys are comedians. What's the meaning of Hope Uzodinma is sitting here? Because of that, the people of Imo State, do they have hope? They don't have a governor, Talk less of now using that, as a comedic, speech for Nigeria. So this wasn't serious, conversation in the first place.
You just made mention that the people of Imo State don't have a governor. Hope Uzodinma was elected in an election conducted by INEC.
He wasn't elected. He was selected by the Supreme Court.
He didn't go to court.
Listen, calm down. He did not win at the election conducted by INEC. He won at the Supreme Court. So you cannot claim that he won an election conducted by INEC. He was number 4 in the election conducted by INEC. It was the Supreme Court. That's why we call him the Supreme Court governor. Are you not in this country?
I'm talking about the second term. He didn't go to court this time. He came out of an election. He contested the election with other political parties.
Can something stand on nothing? If he didn't win the first election, how can you claim he won the second one? If the foundation of the first tenure is faulty and fraudulent, how can you build the foundation of the second tenure?
Yes, that takes me to another argument that political pundits are already raising. The argument of the court being taking a decision for our elections. We have seen a lot of persons, even in the legislative arm of government, they didn't actually win the election, but they got the judgment in courts. So when are we going to have election just in one ballot? We don't wait for people to go to court or the court to determine who becomes the winner.
Well, until you start having real elections, the people who vote in elections are called electorates, right? But the people you have in Nigeria who determine who wins the election or who stay in office are called selectorates. So the Supreme Court, all these courts are just there to select whomever they want, and mostly the highest bidder. And we know all this. As you know, just like yourself, I'm a journalist of a different kind. I do investigative reporting. I actually get to go to court on a daily basis, almost, because I have myriads of cases that were brought against me in the last 5 years, both criminal and civil. So until you have free and fair elections, credible elections, this was all designed ab initio, to have some elections determined by INEC, and then to have some determined by judges, depending on whichever way you get to be elected these days, it is always a true selection. There's no
there's no election in Nigeria.
None. This is what I told even our colleagues or the other guys who were shouting, keep your eye on the judiciary. I was like, are you kidding me? Which judiciary are you talking about? And now all the eyes that were looking at the judiciary, they've caught Apollo, conjunctivitis.
All right, let's come back to the issues now. The president has spoken. He spoke very loud and clear in Lagos, though he initially said, permit me to just throw some jabs. That's the language he used before going into the protest issues. But if you take a look at his body language, does it mean that the demands that the organized labor, as well as Nigerians who were on the streets on Tuesday, the demands may just be a talk to just wave at, and they may not see anything before there. Is that your thinking?
I think, honestly, they no longer take the Labour Party the Labour Union seriously anymore. I think they've known that, there's a level of what we call see finish. And these are conversations that we need to have with our friends in the Labour movement, that something has to be done to also reignite and revive their dignity and integrity. So they can predict that the Labour movements will do certain things. First, it was the TUC pulling out of the protest. Secondly, it was Attorney General of the country telling the labor movement that they're engaging in contempt until Femi Falana and replied them, and they had to shut up. And then finally, it is a general prediction of the public that the labor movement will sell out. And I'm not accusing them of selling out at this point, but the way and manner they ended the strike was terrible. I mean, they ended the protest. That was supposed to be a 2-day protest that could have ignited wider protests, by workers and non-workers. But it turns out to be a fluke.
Maybe they were just avoiding civil unrest, which may also may have caused other problems. That's why they had to put a stop to the protest. You don't think so?
The country is already at unrest. There's nobody resting here, due to hunger, starvation, insecurity, and the general economic situation in the country. So labor actually only engaged in peaceful protests. I was there. I was with the labor leaders in Abuja. We started the protest together. And I left after a while because I had other things to do. But it was a very, very civil, peaceful protest. And I've never heard once that the labor movement in Nigeria engaged in a protest that was violent. It is when they send people to attack them that it gets violent or they infiltrate. So they weren't afraid of that. I think there are some other issues. We don't know what it was that led them to call off that strike that protest for the next day. But right, the fear of violence wasn't part of it at all. In fact, the police was so comfortable in Lagos that they were giving out water and biscuits to protesters. That's a new one, right? The same police that couldn't afford to buy petrol for their vehicles are buying water and biscuits for protesters. That must be some ultra-peaceful protest for police to be handing out, confectionaries and water.
That's like giving a pat in the back to the police because they promised that they were going to handle the process.
I'm being sarcastic here.
Yes. Okay, let me take you back. You have experienced some protests. 2012, the subsidy protest, you were there, and you also experienced another big protest of the NSAS. You were even in the eyes of the camera on a daily basis. And then now protest again, and you are still saying that it may not be the end. A bigger one may be coming in front. But in all of these protests, has it benefited us at all? And if you're going ahead for protests, what will be the benefits?
People don't understand what goes on when a protest is happening. Each time there's a protest, something is always gained from it, whether you can feel it or not. Otherwise, the president of Nigeria will not be talking about a protest that was so peaceful in Abuja, where they were handing out biscuits in Lagos. There must be something fundamentally powerful about this protest that they always react before, during, and after the protest. I should say. So when I was in the university, every time we protested against the military, there were big gains. It would lead to them buying buses. It would lead to the increment in salaries of workers. Each time there's a protest, something fundamental happens. It will lead to policy changes. But you see, protests must also have character. They must have intensity. And they must have consistency for them to achieve their goals. That's what we're debating here today, is that this one wasn't intense enough. It wasn't consistent enough. It wasn't characteristically the type of protest that could bring about change. And you can't blame anybody else for it but the organizers of the protest. So that's the nature of protest. So if you want to achieve big outcomes from protests, plan very powerfully strong, intensive protest and consistent. Don't let it stop after a few hours. Let's exhaust the biscuit and water of the police. Then, you know that you are protesting.
All right.
Not on where, cat and mouse are, hanging out and sharing biscuits.
All All right, before I let you go, just one question. If you were the president at this time and we are going through these hard times, what would you have done differently?
If I was president, you won't be going through this, and I mean it, because I would not have floated the naira, number one, which affects everything because we barely produce anything. We rely a lot on forex to get our even basic needs. Things as basic as the toothpicks. I would by now have focused on the refineries and fixed them. I would have started fixing them by now. I would not have removed fuel subsidy. I would have removed the people who are stealing the subsidy from the system completely. They will by now be in jail, facing trial for their economic crimes and sabotage. I would have created, like I keep saying, in 2019 and 2023, I would have turned Nigeria into a construction site, which will provide a lot of jobs for young people and, pay pensioners on time and use the opportunity I have politically to cut down the cost of governance. The Oronsaye report, they make it sound like it's big deal. No, that is not the way to cut the cost of governance. If you want to cut the cost of governance in Nigeria, do you know what to do? Reduce the bicameral legislative system into one, make it a unicameral one. Just keep the Senate, get rid of the House of Reps. They're doing nothing for you. And then you reinvest that money into education, into healthcare, infrastructure, agriculture. And the president who is asking for you to do anything must also be doing everything he can, 24/7. So restore electricity to the country, and that will restore both security, because if you take care of electricity, you take care of jobs, employment, and you take care of education very well, more and more people will be in school, more people will have work to do, and you pay them well. My minimum wage, as you are aware, is 250,000 naira as of 2022. That's my recommendation. And everybody was laughing at me at that time and claiming that it will cause inflation. Now you are dealing with real hyperinflation, and it wasn't caused by wages. It was not driven by wages. It's driven by terrible macroeconomic policies, because you're going to bring these Lagos guys who don't know anything about banking to come and head the Central Bank of Nigeria. They don't know anything. I'm not mocking them. They don't know any better. This is the best Cardoso can give you. They don't know anything. These are just people in Lagos who are selling land, and doing real estate. You just brought them to Abuja overnight and to start managing it. They don't know what to do. So I will hire very competent hands to run the microeconomic policies of the country. I will stop the Central Bank of Nigeria from doing retail banking, because what the Central Bank is doing now, like I keep saying, the Central Bank is a glorified bureau de change. Everything they are doing there are people at the Central Bank of Nigeria who don't have a desk. They just go and collect dollars and sell all day long. So you reform that sector, ensure that they are doing central banking and doing banking supervision, ensuring that the GMDs of these big banks are not just buying and selling dollars, but they're actually doing real banking. And you can consolidate the banks, so the banks that work for the people, and the ones that don't work for the people, don't say they are too big to fail. Let them fail. So I'm just giving you some of the immediate steps that we take, because people say, what about, you can have all the guns in the world to stop insecurity. People have nothing to eat. If they have no electricity to, for small businesses to do their jobs, if children can't go to school, there's no way you can stop insecurity. Even if America sells, their F-22 Raptors or F-35, if you have 100 of them, it still won't stop insecurity, because these things they are deeply rooted in inequality and mismanagement.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you for your time. I think we'll just leave this discussion here. Hopefully, we'll be having you talk to us some other time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for bringing me, and have a good evening and nice weekend.
Thank you. Well, that was a conversation with the 2023 presidential candidates of the African Action Congress, AAC, Omoyele Sowore. So let's quickly at this moment go for a short break. When we return, we'll go to the South region of Rivers State. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. So let's go to matters arising from Rivers State and politics in Rivers State. Now, let's tell you that the Rivers State High Court on Tuesday restrained the Nigerian police from arresting the Chief of Staff to Rivers State Government, Edison Ehi. The matter, which pertained to the fundamental human rights of the applicant, was brought before the court for hearing and determination. A counsel for the applicant, Dio Okoro San, and CM Dixon Esquire, representing the respondent, presented their arguments before the court, and the judgment delivered after careful consideration of the arguments presented outlined the following. And one of them is that the dismissal of the preliminary objection raised on the issue of jurisdiction will have to be deemed lacking in merit. And a declaration restraining the respondent from a lot. It talked about the declaration restraining the respondent from arresting the applicant based on charges alleged to be politically motivated and aimed at settling scores, specifically referencing the burning and destruction of the Rivers State House of Assembly chambers, and in injunction preventing opinion from a political analyst based in Rivers State. We may also be speaking with a lawyer, but let's go straight to Rivers State as we are joined via Zoom by a regular guest, regular analyst, Marvin Yobana. Thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, viewers.
Good evening, we appreciate. Yeah, this is a development coming from Rivers State, and there is still, will this judgment supersede the first one that said he should be arrested?
Well, this judgment, from my own understanding, is clearly the final judgment in the terms of this matter, because first of all, the issue of jurisdiction was clearly defined and why the matter was not supposed to be in Abuja in the first place. So it has also advisedly asked the first and second respondents to go and do the needful by withdrawing the matter from Abuja and filing it properly. It quoted different sections of the law, which gives the same power to the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt. The Federal High Court has 5 judges. So there are 5 courts for the prosecution counsel to choose from, rather than taking this case to Abuja. In fact, the judge went further to say it amounted to forum shopping, and that it falls against the fundamental rights of the accused, because what they did there was to shop for a favorable judge or a favorable court that will give them judgment against the accused person without giving him fair hearing. That is the whole long and short of the matter. And it's clearly stated there, and he threw out all that and also awarded a cost against the first and second respondents. So I think, in my own thinking and my own understanding, this is a final judgment. It is now left for the prosecution and the respondents to actually obey the court order or appeal against that court ruling.
So what they are saying now is based on jurisdiction. The order gotten from the court in Abuja cannot supersede the one gotten from Rivers State. That's what you're telling us?
The law is very clear about within that state that could hear this case. If you are not favorable to one, you can go to the next one. So the man went to court to enforce his fundamental right, biased against him and try to witch-hunt him politically. And that is how the judge saw it and gave the judgment in favor of the Edison Ehi and his counsel.
Okay, but you know, it's possible that they can also get an order restraining this, stopping this order that came from the Rivers State High Court. Nothing in this matter that we have not seen before. This is Nigeria, and anything can happen.
Well, if we say anything can happen in when it comes to the judiciary, we know we cannot just say anything can happen. The law is the law. There's the ground norm, which is the Constitution, and it is very clear, written in black and white, and it is there for those experts, legal practitioners, and those in the legal field to interpret the law. And for us, as citizens, we must comply and abide to the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if the court clearly states now that this process is wrong in terms of prosecution, don't forget that the trial judge also mentioned that this is no longer a prosecution but a persecution. So if it is seen that what you're doing doesn't have any fair hearing for the persons you are taking to court, it then means that you cannot assume the powers of the court to say, look, this must take place or that must take place. The only thing they can do is to appeal that judgment, because it is the valid judgment of a court of competent jurisdiction. So they can appeal it. It's not final. The case might get as far as the Supreme Court. So that is how I see it.
Okay, but let's also remind you that at a time here, you told us that there may be political solution to some of these problems. Where is the political solution coming from? Because this issue of River State is becoming too long.
Well, for us in River State, there is a political solution already. The president, in his magnanimity and as a father of the nation, waded into this political crisis and advised the parties to withdraw their cases from court, which the Edison Ehia's faction did withdraw their case from court. The governor of River State, Similaye Fubara, withdrew his own case from the court. But the Amehule faction refused to withdraw their case from court. Instead, they went ahead with filing more cases in court against Edison Ehia and the others. So you see, it is one party that is not listening to Mr. President. Mr. President has tried to ensure that there is political solution and there is peace in River State. You know, in this time of economic hardship in this country, it would be very, very wrong for a state like River State that produces a large chunk of the national resources that we have to be in political crisis. And that is why the president went out of his way to ensure that he brokers this political solution. And the governor has agreed that in every spirit and letter of that agreement, he's going to keep everything. And he's doing it. So why is this Amehule and his so-called members, why are they not keeping to the same agreement that was signed by Amehule himself and the governor? Even Edison did not sign that agreement, but he has respected the president and kept to that agreement. So I think that Mr. President, although he's very busy now with the political problem we're having in this country and the food shortage we're having in the country, his security persons and those in charge of, like the National Security Advisor and those advising him, should tell him, draw his attention to say, look, this Amehule's faction is trying to cause more crisis in the state than make peace. So I think that it is time that they should be ordered to withdraw all their cases from court and ensure that there's peace in the state. Although that has not stopped governance in River State, because the governor has gone further to be doing exactly what he was elected to do.
All right, let's look. That's where I'm going to come from now. You said it has not stopped governance. But how does it look like when two bodies, two arms of government that are supposed to complement each other at war, at power, because of some misunderstanding, the State Assembly is not fully in connection with the executive? Is that not affecting governance in River State?
Well, for us in River State, the governor has gone beyond just the issue of the State Assembly. Don't forget that not too long ago, based on the peace agreement that was brokered at the presidency, the governor represented these same names of commissioners that we have sacked back to the Assembly for screening, which they did, and he did swear them in. He has gone further to send them certain things, certain information that they required, and they asked for. He has given to them. The governor has gone further to execute most projects. He has commissioned some are ongoing, some are the phases of award, and every day you see the governor going from one side to the other, inspecting projects and asking contractors to work hard. He's there taking care of civil servants. He has just promoted the local government workers. He has also enforced the minimum wage that was prescribed in local governments by the federal government. He's gone further to do a lot of things. He has flagged up the low housing, 20,000 low housing units for low earners in the state. So the governor is not worried about what is happening in the assembly. But my own worry is that if Amehule's faction of the assembly do not slow down and accept the peace in the state, when it comes to the presentation of the next budget, what will the governor do? Will he present it to the Amehule faction that is not listening to him? So I think it is time for those Amehule is serving or the president to call them to order, because we cannot continue in this direction. We are worried.
Mr. Yabana, do they still, sorry, I need to ask you this question. Do they still have faction in the State Assembly? Because the last time I checked, Edison Ehie, who was the speaker of one of the factions, resigned even as a member, as an elected member of the House. So that means Amehulle is the only speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly. Is that not what it is now?
Yeah, you cannot say they don't have factions. Don't forget there are 4 members who stood with the governor. And out of the 4 of them, it's only Edison that resigned from the assembly. There are 3 members who still stand by the governor. And don't be surprised if the problem continues, any of them can declare themselves speaker. And that is it. So it is very clear that there's the State Assembly is factionalized. There are 2 different groups in the State Assembly as we speak today. And if you go by the letters of the Constitution, it is very clear that the Amehule's factions, they are no longer members of the State Assembly, going by the Supreme Court judgment that has been given. Because once you are an assembly member and you leave the party that got you elected into that office and defect to a different party before you conclude your term in the assembly, automatically the Constitution is very clear that you have lost your seat.
So is that why the governor is not representing the budget that one of the agreements reached with the president's meeting?
I am not a spokesperson for the governor. I don't know what the governor is doing, but I only know that the governor has accepted to comply with the political agreement and he's keeping to it. So the issue of presenting budget or not, I know that budget has been signed to law before, but I don't know what is happening with it, and I cannot speak on behalf of
they got a court injunction which says that whatever the governor has done is null and void, and that thing is still there. It's an order from the court, so that means the governor needs to represent the budget to the House. And you mentioned something.
Well,
but you mentioned something, because it seems that the governance crisis, the squabble between the executive and the legislative arm of government in Rivers State is yet to even leave the road, because we are seeing things. And that thing you mentioned, if the next budget is coming, which house will the governor present the budget to? Not that they are still fighting. Yeah, that's a very big question.
That is what. That is an if. That is if. That is why I told you that the assembly is factionalized. You have 2 factions. Definitely you have 2 factions. One might claim that they are majority, but the other people might claim that those majority are no longer members of the assembly. And so the issue of leadership of the assembly might come to play again if the Amehulle faction does not abide by the letters of the presidential agreement that Mr. President brokered and abide by the spirit of that peace accord. So they see the cards are still on their table. It is left for them to play it properly and follow the letters and the spirit of the peace agreement that has been reached, which the governor has been following. So by the time we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. But for me, I am 100% sure that the governor has agreed and is abiding by the peace agreement and he's keeping to all the promises he has made. and that has not affected governance in the state.
But Mr. Yobana, you will not also throw away the fact that if they don't reach a truce, it is the people that will suffer, and that may also affect governance in the state, because the governor cannot just take the decision unilaterally without going through the legislative arm of government.
Everything the governor has done, he's done lawfully. Every presentation he needed to do to the assembly, he did it lawfully. Every step he has taken, he has followed the letters of the law, even when navigating within the peace agreement, which is in between law and the convention, like I prefer to call it. So the governor has followed that path of peace. He has said there's nothing, no price is too much to pay for peace. He has been given an award, like you know, on Sunday he will be receiving an award from one of the national dailies as the man of peace of the year. So I think that the man has honor, he has integrity, and he has the people's mandate, and the people are supporting him. No wonder all the local governments are thanking God for the success of the Supreme Court and thanking God for the man. The other day, the women of Rivers State came out to pray for him. So I think that all the members of the Amehule group should just join hands with Rivers people and let us move the state forward. Let us allow peace to reign in the state.
Okay, let me just quickly, before I go, I just got a message from someone who, no name, but a number, it's a WhatsApp message. He says, the judgment, that judgment you're talking about, does not touch on police declaring Edison Ehe wanted for treason, conspiracy, murder, etc. Does it not mean that Edison is still hunted by the police? If the judgment you just quoted does not touch on this, that means the police may still go after him.
Well, Ijoba, the judgment is there. You can read it. I know that the judgment touches on those things that have just been mentioned. There are 3 declarations that were done there clearly. And out of the 3 declarations, the first one talks about his fundamental rights. The second one talks about the declaration about in the charge that the person is referring to in the Federal High FHRO ABJ CRO/25/2024. That is the case he's referring to. The court actually talked about it and settled that. He called it that they are trying to settle political score against the applicant, and thereby he declared what they did as invalid.
All right.
And null and void.
Thank you so much.
So,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yobana. I appreciate you for coming on the show. Well, that's the issue on Rivers State, and it's looking like the disagreement between the executive and legislative arm of government in Rivers State is not going to end so soon, or probably, I'll just say probably there's going to be another surprise, just like Mr. Yobana said. Don't be surprised, something may happen in the State House of Assembly. So we are waiting for those drama. That's why we are here. So we give you all the reports as they come, from states to the central in Abuja, entire Nigeria, Africa, and outside the shores of Nigeria. Until we return tomorrow, 7 p.m., follow me on my handle at EG Osamo on X, formerly Twitter. Good night.